Check, thanks for joining us on Kick and Chase. Been a tough year at times for Australian rugby. How closely have you been able to, or do you work closely with the coaches and try and help them along the way in the other franchises?
Yeah, getting better. I think I've got good relations with the guys who are coaching all the teams, and maybe we've had probably one of the big differences between Australia and New Zealand might have been that relationship between coaches in the past, but I think we're still looking at how to be competitive, and a bit at a time. They're seeking advice sometimes, or we're suggesting some things that they might take on, they may not, you know what I mean? But that's our role, is to keep providing those ideas and keep sticking at it, and eventually we'll work a bit more together as the years go on.
So you're at a lot of the Super Games yourself. When results aren't going the way of the Aussie sides, how do you turn that into a happy camp when they come in 3 or 4 weeks' time?
Well, mate, I think you try and take a look at the reasons why, you know, and you don't go for the fake positivity, you know, the old Donald Trump fake news. You don't worry about that. You go for what's real. And when we look at how the group of players that we've been looking at and I suppose coding, or that's more the technical term for assessing, we've looked for the reasons why compared to our opponents. And I think some of the reasons why are just as much around mindset as they are around technical issues.
Mm-hmm. Michael, the coaching summit that's coming up, or not a summit, whatever it is, what's happening, who's involved, and what are you looking at addressing?
Mate, I think the word summit is a bit extreme, you know what I mean? I'd say that I'm always in contact with guys like Bob, with Alec Evans, right, etc. Maybe I could contact a few more, and in the World Cup year I definitely spoke to a lot more coaches. But we're setting up just a little get-together with, say, some of our old coaches, and like Bob, Dick Marks, you know, maybe a few contemporary players, or some like ex-players, and some outside the circle altogether, just to get a different perspective. It's certainly not going to hurt us, and we'll probably sit down and do that in the next couple of weeks and just have a look at some ideas. One of the big things that is that when we do have ideas that come from something like that, we've also got to have the ability then to implement them, you know what I mean, as opposed to having one for each Super Rugby team and then seeing what happens from there. So it'll be my job then to try to get whatever we might come out of that and go to the Super Rugby coaches and say, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And try and get some consensus on, work out what we can get consensus on and work together on, and what we absolutely can't.
So all of that fits into, and you used the word centralisation earlier, your view on centralisation, does it mirror what New Zealand have done, or would it look...
I didn't actually use the word centralisation, Nick.
In your first answer, I think.
No. Because everyone wants to think, well, centralisation, we're going to be just like New Zealand. And that's not what we want to do. We want to... obviously, they do some things very, very well. They wouldn't be in the place they would be if they did, you know what I mean? If they didn't do those things well. But what we want to do is get the best of what we do and make some suggestions to our, you know, put those ideas out to teams. And even if a coach says to me, no way, I'm not doing that, because he doesn't want to maybe, you know, bend the ego a little bit, that, maybe he'll think about that, and in his day-to-day then go and start applying some of that stuff. And we were at the... a few of the guys, our coaches, went out to Waratahs on Monday, and we did a bit of extra fitness stuff, a new thing we're doing from a fitness point of view. A lot of their other guys jumped in, their coaches were involved. So just having a look at ideas, and you're not ever going to get one solution that's just going to all of a sudden decide, oh, well, everything's sorted, you know what I mean? Just a bit at a time. And also at the same extreme, yes, have had a tough year, but that's about... it was only a year or two ago that we were much more, you know, up there in this leaderboard in Super Rugby. So don't panic, just understand what the issues are and start rectifying them.
Check, use the word solution there. Another connotation on that is resolution. So with the Australian situation at the moment, there's a conjecture about which Australian side is going to be gone. The 2 squads with the players there are affected by the fact that none can be re-signed at the moment. What message do you have to them or their families? Because obviously it's a very anxious time. What message can you give to them? And do you have a time frame as to when that will become available, that they can secure their futures?
Mate, I'll go to the last part first, the time frame issue. There's so many moving parts to this. You know, you don't actually know where the resolution's going to end up. So I think that's still to make a broad range of decisions on, and we'll just see what happens with that. As far as players are concerned, we know that in Australia there's a general attrition of somewhere between 10 or 15% of players in any Super Rugby year. They either go overseas, retire, etc., etc. And we think that not too many of our players who are currently in the system would miss out if that happens. I'll say if that happens, because there's no guarantee that that is going to happen.
But how can you assure the guys that are being affected by it, particularly those with families, in terms of the uncertainty that's lingered on for such a long time now?
Mate, the issue around certainty in anyone's life is made by the person themselves, right? That they make the decision of, yes, I believe that there's going to be a good outcome here and I'm going to be able to play with a team next year, maybe my current team or another team, like any player does at the end of any season when they decide, what are my options, right? And I have a look around, do I go overseas, do I stay here? And they provide that certainty for themselves. Yep. And then, yeah, mate, I'm not in any way saying that it's not great that they are currently having that uncertainty from a broader perspective. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, we're all in charge of our own destiny as far as that's concerned. And we make those decisions. And we've been around and spoken, like I know with the Wallaby squad, right, I've spoken to that, 50-odd players that we had in camp in April about, what I think about, how players will be affected. And I think that one of the other hugely important things is that we must consider just as much, if not more, of supporters. I think they're very, very important to this puzzle, because they're the people that are coming through the gates and they keep our game alive. And we've got to make sure that we keep them in mind no matter what happens in regards to this resolution when it does happen.
We were in Melbourne on Saturday night. You're right, supporters are not enjoying it very much down there, the whole saga. And a reminder today too that for the Rebels players, they're under the hammer too. Their assistant coach Morgan Turinui earlier today.
Well, the team, first and foremost, our players are actually under a lot of stress, obviously. It is really starting to wear thin. The issue I've got with my players is they read the media and they are being debilitated. From a mental health perspective, we have genuine issues and worries with our players. We're so focused on the mental health issues challenging young people today, young sportsmen today, and then on the one hand we have the ARU putting them in a situation that puts them under extreme stress. It's not acceptable, it's disgraceful. Simple as that.
Yeah, Morgan Turinui there, your response to that?
It's the first time I've seen it, to be honest, and obviously Morgan's a close friend of mine and a guy I've coached as well. And what I think is there's a young coach there in his first year of Super Rugby coaching being put through, putting under a lot of pressure, being the spokesman out there for saying that. He's totally doing what a coach would do, which is look after his players, right? He'll be thinking with one eye of that as well about on-field performance too, because I know he's not looking to make, having spoken to him, he's not looking to make excuses for on-field performance. So he'll have one eye also by using that type of rhetoric in his talk about galvanising his team. And I think the way they played the other night, it was two tries to 5, but they stayed in the battle the whole way, and I think that they are galvanising that team of players down there. And they're in a difficult position where a lot of people will learn a lot about themselves.